Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Supernaturals. I'm Jake, and that's Cal.
That's me opening a beer because this is going to be a heavy-ass episode. So
we're getting demonetized for sure again. So,
yeah.
It's okay. We don't even need it. It's fine.
Be sure to, check us out on the Spotify and all that kind of stuff because you know damn well that YouTube ain't going to monetize this shit.
True.
Why don't you tell them a little bit about why the lights are yellow, Jake?
You know, for our audio listeners out there, our lights are yellow.
Our lights are yellow.
You got to remember, not everyone watches the video.
My bad.
We respect you, audio listeners.
Yeah,
we do,
I just
we
keep
do.
forgetting.
Cal just jumps the gun. He's like, guys,
I'm sorry.
The lights are yellow.
They're cool.
They are cool.
I really like theming them. So
it's on theme. You know why? Because we're talking about Jeffrey Dahmer today. And he is notorious for wearing his iconic yellow shirt.
Yeah.
It's like his staple of his image.
Yup.
So, for you guys out there, our lights are yellow.
Yeah, they're yellow. And this guy, he's not going to be fun to talk about. You know, I mean, this episode is going to be fascinating, if nothing else, really. It's just, we've already covered a couple serial killers, pretty famous ones on the pod already. We did the Night Stalker.
It's true.
We did John Wayne Gacy, obviously. And those two guys, I mean, they were pretty bad people, right? They were horrible, horrible people. But it's so crazy because reading on this guy, I mean, this is
the things they do.
This is the cookie cutter serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy that, people were able to see the warning signs now, like later on, I guess. People, yeah, it's just this guy had such a big stamp on pop culture. And
I feel like he was definitely like one of the top talked about in movies, songs, documentaries completely.
Well, he also spawned off, which this is horrible, but he did spawn off and help inspire some of the like famous iconic horror movie villains that we actually love today.
It's true.
Leatherface, huge Jeffrey Dahmer implications, right? I mean, the whole, cutting the face off, putting it over. Dahmer didn't do that. Or did he?
No.
I was going to say, I don't think he did. But
no, that was a take on it.
Yeah. And that's so, yeah, Leatherface, his whole thing. I know Jason had little things there. It's just, this guy really, truly did shit that nobody in their right mind would probably think to do.
Just a straight monster.
Yeah. Which they also did a TV show on Netflix called that Monster Dahmer, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, or whatever the title is. I always thought it was kind of a weird title. It's like Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. They could have just called it like Dahmer or Monster.
It's interesting that Monster gets put in that category of like word choice around these type of people. Because as we saw actually in the movie we just watched a movie that just came out called Trap.
Yeah, you guys will obviously probably have seen it already because this episode comes out 2-3 weeks later. But
yeah, it was pretty decent. But they talk about in that movie him being a monster and that he can't get away from it.
Yeah,
and it's just fascinating.
Yeah,
like, serial killers are put with that word. Well, it's just wild.
It's crazy because that that's a perfect example. Trap. It could be like all of these horror movies that we see today are like echoes from what Jeffrey Dahmer did, So it's like, I mean, it's so bad though looking again, I said it on a couple episodes ago. It's like, I'm the kind of guy that when I watch a slasher movie, I root for the slashers the majority of the time. Right? Yeah. I root for the killers because it's like they have to go, like the victims are such like trash people that you're like, I don't give a shit about
these people. They build
you
up to hate them.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I'm a fan
fiction.
of all the kills and stuff, but that's the key word right there is that it's fiction. Then when you hear about shit like this, I actually hadn't seen the Jeffrey Dahmer show. I didn't have Netflix for a while, and so I watched it to prepare for this episode as well. and I genuinely didn't want to finish it. And I didn't. I'm like, you know, even though it is a dramatized version of it, it included a bunch of stuff from what I'm about to tell you guys. I mean, all the research and shit. I mean, they did kind of nail it.
The actor is so on point.
Oh yeah, Evan Peters,
dude. He plays the role so well. It's scary.
It's creepy for sure. Yeah, but he's a good actor.
He is. I've loved him ever since I saw him in American Horror Story.
First time I saw him was X-Men.
Really?
Yeah. He was Quicksilver. He had that whole scene where it's like everything slowed down and he was just like slowly running with the music playing. Yeah, so I don't know, Evan Peters, he killed it, even though that's a horrible role to kill.
Yeah.
But
would agree.
Yeah, I just, you know, when it is fiction, you know, like, okay, like I'm a fan of Terrifier, right? So I'm cool with seeing Art the Clown running around chopping people up, right? Because that's just like, I know it's fake. I'm like enjoying the, you know, the effects. I like seeing the effects, or like how creative can they get with kills and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you get to a show like Dahmer and you're hit with this anxiety of like, you know what's gonna happen because like, you know what did happen in real life, and you just like don't want it to happen because you're like, fuck, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it's real, dude, it's nothing to.
It's another beast.
It's nothing to fuck with for sure. So,
well, buckle up because we got a crazy one for you.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about. So we're gonna take you guys through his early life from, you know, when he was born all the way to when
the death.
Yeah. So we're going to cover Jeffrey Dahmer today. We're going to give our kind of thoughts about the whole thing. I have a couple thoughts in my little research piece here, but, you know, we'll give our thoughts at the end and stuff. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy, you know, this episode. It's darker than our usual episodes for sure, but we also find it fascinating and important. And I think, what kind of horror podcast would we be if we didn't talk about fucking Jeffrey Dahmer?
Right. We have to.
Dumbass.
So we're knocking it out early.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And then we give you the more lighthearted stuff later.
Yeah. No. We got a bunch of fun episodes coming up, especially our holiday specials and things like that. So
yeah. Stay tuned. Keep looking forward.
But as of now,
sit back,
relax, grab a drinky drink. And
it's about to get heavy.
It's good. Heavy. It's about to get heavy. Sorry, I wanted to.
All good.
Have a little sip before I started here. Oh, first and foremost, if you did want to watch the show, the Jeffrey Dahmer show on Netflix, and you haven't seen it yet, probably go watch it before you listen to us, and then come back. That being said, this is a special spoiler for this guy's life. It's not really a movie. It's just, you know, spoiler.
It's hard not to laugh at that part still. I know.
Okay. All right.
Get situated. You good?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Let's do it.
Born on May 21st, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Jeffrey Dahmer was born to young parents, Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. Lionel was a student of chemistry at Marquette, while Joyce was a typing instructor. His infant life was not very well known. Some reported that his parents didn't give him much love as a baby, while others say he was well loved by both parents. But whatever the case, it was well known that Joyce loved attention and would often be heard loudly arguing with Lionel in the late hours of night, and sometimes even her neighbors. Joyce was actually diagnosed with depression. Apparently, one night, she even tried to kill herself using sleeping pills, but it didn't work. Later on in life, Dahmer described his early years in the family as, quote, unusual. He stated that when he was in the first grade, Lionel would throw himself in his schoolwork, while Joyce would stay in bed all day, begging and screaming for attention. Dahmer realized at a very young age that his family was unstable. He said that there was always a constant tension within the household that was quite heavy. With neither parent giving him any time, he had to learn how to grow up sort of alone. He was described as a happy and energetic child, but that soon changed after his 4th birthday when little Dahmer had a double hernia surgery. This apparently changed his entire personality. He had grown up quite timid and shy. Even one of his teachers began to believe he was showing signs of abandonment. Then one day, little Dahmer noticed his father pulling out something from underneath their house. It was a dead animal. That actually fascinated Dahmer. He ended up playing with the bones of the animal. He called them, quote, his fiddlesticks. And Lionel even stated that Dahmer was oddly thrilled by the sound the animal bones made and found it weird when his son would search around and under the house for more to play with. During this time, Joyce got pregnant again. She told little Dahmer that she would let him choose his little brother's name, which he did. David. The family moved in October of 1966 to Doylestown, Ohio, before Joyce gave birth to David in December. Lionel finally earned his degree during this time and actually began working as a chemist in Akron. 2 years later, they all packed up and moved again to Summit County in Ohio. The home was surrounded by timber and had a small hut a short walk away from the house. This home was the family's sixth house since Joyce and Lionel got married, which is kind of weird, no doubt, but hey, it happens. Dahmer spent most of his youthful days finding and collecting more animal bones. Some of them he even put in small jars and hid them in the small hut. 2 years after that, a weird dinner conversation occurred. And this is a pretty like important time when you go back and look at Dahmer's life. So the family had made a chicken, and apparently Dahmer asked Lionel what would happen if the bones of the chicken were placed in bleach. It's a weird ass question for sure, but Lionel actually took it as curiosity for chemistry, which again was what he went to school for and what his current job was.
Little did he know.
Yeah. So looking back, Lionel has often been criticized by a lot of people for not seeing this as a warning sign, but I can fully understand where he's coming from, because when I was a kid, I hated sports and my dad played in the NFL and my older sister was a basketball star and all that. And I was pretty much just focused on video games for a really long time. But when I played Madden for the first time, I loved it so much that my dad, I begged him to buy it for me, and he did. But no doubt he figured, finally something sports related. He's going to start getting into them. And sure enough, I did. So I always talk to my dad now about sports, and, we watch every Dolphins Jets game together, go Fins. And I can see why, Dahmer's dad, I guess, didn't think too much about it. You're mad I threw a little Dolphins thing in there?
Not mad, just funny.
But yeah, I mean, that's just, I can understand why he didn't think too much about it. So I think that the criticism for him is kind of unfair. I get sure, if my kid was asking me those, hey, what the hell's what can I do with this chicken carcass or what? I'd be like, brother, that's fucking weird. You gotta stop.
Right.
But if that was my career, I'd be like, oh, my kid wants to
pursue something that I'm interested in.
And that's what I'm saying is, with me and my dad, I wasn't into anything that he was really into. He was always pushing sports on me. And I was just I didn't want to do it. I was just focused on freaking girls and video games. Mm-hmm. I didn't give a shit. And then all of a sudden I play Madden thanks to your brother. And then all of a sudden I was like, this game is really fun. And then I was like, I can do this in real life. Holy shit. So yeah, now then that happened. So obviously it took a dark turn for little Dahmer here, but it probably was a good feeling, seeing his son taking an interest in his work, right? What he's obviously been working really hard on. So, but things took a weird turn when Lionel explained that the bleach can actually help preserve the bones, and Dahmer would collect roadkill, dissect it, and use the tactics he got from his dad to preserve the bones. And apparently there were also little crucifixes that Dahmer would place the animal bones or the animal skull on top of. It's like a little shrine. Fucking weird, dude. Yeah. So to make matters worse, Joyce started using drugs a lot more. This furthered her distance from her family, leaving Dahmer to only have his dad, who wasn't always around. The strangest instance with an animal was when Dahmer explained to a friend that he wished to know how animals fit together. which is a weird thing to say. Then he found a dead dog in the woods, cut the head off the body, nailed the body to a tree, then took a spear-like stick and straight up William Wallace to the dog's head on a stick, and brought his friend over and said it was a prank. Some prank, Dahmer.
That's not a great prank at all.
Well, apparently it worked out because Dahmer's pranks ended up becoming famous. Everybody would call it doing a Dahmer.
Really?
Yeah. It'd be like, hey, this guy's funny. Hey, like, do a Dahmer. And then he would, like, do some random bullshit.
Huh.
Sometimes it'd be
I think I did
weird.
hear that saying at one point in my life.
Yeah. I think it was in the show. Yeah, I think it was titled, like, episode 3 or some shit. Literally called, like, doing a Dahmer. But that's what it was, dude. He would fucking, but that was all he had at school, though.
Right.
Was people would think he was still weird as shit. But they'd be like, you know, hey, Dahmer, like, do a Dahmer. And then he would, like, do some random dumb shit. And then they'd be like, oh, that's funny. And then, you know, he would try to, like, kind of include himself. And
he was trying to fit in. Right?
Yeah, and it just didn't work. So as a freshman, well, he went off to high school. As a freshman, he began his drinking habit, which continued for the rest of his life. He would drink every day and often by himself while he played tennis. And he was in school band for a bit. Actually, he didn't have many, if any, friends. And one day he even hid a bottle of whiskey in his jacket and drank some before class. One of his classmates asked him why he was drinking so early in the morning, to which Dahmer responded with, quote, "It's my medicine." He was known as a kind kid by his teachers, although he only earned average grades and he was often very, very quiet. It wasn't until he hit puberty that Dahmer figured out that he was in fact gay. When he did, he had a very brief relationship with another guy or another high school boy, but that led to nothing. And during this time, he began to start fantasizing about the male physique, particularly the torso, the chests, pectoral muscles, things like that. He then started thinking about dominating another boy, his age, and he ended up having this weird dream about a male jogger who he dreamed would be unconscious, and Dahmer would be able to do anything he wanted to the body. The dream felt so real to him that he actually took a baseball bat and hid in some bushes by one of his streets, waiting for a jogger to come, and he was going to, hit him, but luckily nobody did. This was actually the first time Dahmer thought about hurting somebody.
Wow.
So that was one difference too. When I did the research in the show, he actually does meet somebody. He brings him back to the house, and actually I think it was a dream. I think there was I was sitting there and I was like, wait, this is real. And then I was like, this is not how it, and then I think it did go back to a dream. So never mind, scratch that. But either way, I was concerned. I was like, what the fuck? During his final year of high school, Dahmer's grades dropped dramatically and his home life declined the same. His parents argued every day, but eventually began counseling. The only problem was that Lionel found out that Joyce had an affair, and they divorced pretty much immediately. Lionel left the house and stayed in a motel while Dahmer took the divorce pretty hard. He was caught drinking in the parking lot of the school once by a teacher, and he told the teacher that he had a lot of problems at home and he had nowhere else to drink. Once the divorce was finalized, Joyce received alimony payments and custody of David. She ended up leaving. Wow. So, I know. So 3 weeks after Dahmer graduated and nobody was home, he was driving one night and saw a bare-chested man on the side of the road looking for a ride. Dahmer felt sexual feelings as he examined the hitchhiker's physique, and he decided to give the man a ride. The man's name was Mark Hicks, who was 18 years old. During the ride, Hicks said that he was heading to a rock concert in Ohio, but Dahmer got him to agree to stop by his house because Dahmer promised him a beer or two. As the two talked more, though, Dahmer realized that Hicks wasn't gay as he spoke about girls and things like that. But that didn't stop Dahmer. The two got back to his house and began drinking, listening to music, even lifting weights. But when Hicks decided it was time to go, Dahmer said, "I don't want you to." And he took a 10-pound dumbbell and hit Hicks in the head, knocking him out. He then strangled Hicks to death before undressing him and pleasuring himself to his body. If that wasn't fucked up enough, Dahmer then dragged Hicks' body down to the basement and dissected him. He then buried the remains in his backyard, but a week later, he dug up the remains because he was nervous about people finding them. He put them in acid, crushed the bones, and spread them all over the property, and every other piece of evidence was thrown off a bridge into a river. So that was his first kill.
Wild.
Absolutely haunting to think about. But what's even worse is this was only the first of many, and some, unfortunately, had worse fates, which is hard to even comprehend. So after all this crazy and disgusting shit, Jeff joined the Army. You might think, what about college? Well, he actually tried. Lionel actually helped him enroll at Ohio State, which sadly turned out to be a complete disaster because he only made it 3 months. He failed every course except for riflery, and even that he only got a B-. His final GPA was 0.45%. That's out of 4.0.
Wow. One might say he struggled.
Yeah, you could say that. I don't think he struggled, actually, because I don't think he tried at all. I'll get to that in a second.
He wasn't. It's not important.
I'll get to that in a second. The cause of this was actually due to Dahmer's consistent alcohol abuse,
which we know continued for years and years.
Yep. One time, Lionel actually showed up and surprised his son in college, but found him passed out in his dorm surrounded by empty liquor bottles, and that's when Dahmer dropped out. Lionel, obviously mad at the amount of money he wasted sending Jeff to college, he told him that he needed to join the Army, so he did. But the Army wasn't too nice for Dahmer, in my opinion, for good reason. He was openly insubordinate, constantly drank, and tried to get out of training exercises. But he did end up getting through it, basic training, that is, and he was actually shipped off to Germany, where he became a combat medic. He never saw any action, but he actually started doing well over there. He was following orders, doing things like that. But thanks to his alcohol abuse, again, his performance dropped like insane. And in 1981, he was honorably discharged. At his briefing, they gave Dahmer a plane ticket to anywhere in the world. He didn't want to return home due to the fear of what his father might say about his experience in the military, so he ended up choosing Miami Beach. Go Dolphins, of all places.
Florida teams.
No. Yeah, so he went there.
Interesting.
Yeah, that also didn't last long because he spent most of his money from his job at a sandwich shop all on alcohol. He would even spend nights on the beach watching the sunset and getting hammered, which, if I'm being honest, doesn't sound like a bad night at all. But because of his overspending on booze, he couldn't make payment and was evicted from his motel room, so he ended up calling Lionel and begging him to let him come back home to Ohio. But that also ended soon. Dahmer's alcoholism was so bad that he couldn't find a job. Both Lionel and Dahmer's stepmom tried to get him off the booze, but he didn't listen. He was actually even arrested for drunk and disorderly conduct. He was only fined $60 for that and had to serve a 10-day sentence in jail. That's when Dahmer was kicked out and sent to live with his grandma in West Allis, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And as you probably know, if you know Dahmer, that is where a lot of shit went down. So, believe it or not, Dahmer's grandma was actually the only one that Dahmer really loved and cared about and showed any affection toward. Both Lionel and his new wife had hoped that because of this, she could help wean Dahmer off the booze, but after a little while, he went right back to it. Mm-hmm. In fact, while he was living with grandma, he was arrested again, this time for exposing himself in front of 25 people, including women and children, at a park. He was fined only $50 for this.
Keep in mind, though, $50 back then is a little more than it is
It's a little more, but still, that's fucking weird.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then, one day, while Dahmer was at a public library, a man sat next to him and slid him a note. The note asked Dahmer if he could give him a hand job. Oh. Don't you just love when you go to just a random place like a coffee shop or something?
You just
the girl sits down, she just hands you a thing, and she's like
slides it over. You gives you the look. Goes,
yeah,
yep.
My car, 10 minutes.
You're like, yeah, okay.
I don't know what I would do. It's never happened to me.
Me either.
Anyway,
trying to imagine, can't.
Dahmer actually didn't respond to the note. He kind of just ignored it, but it did end up re-sparking the thoughts of dominating and all of his sexual fantasies again. So this triggered Dahmer to start exploring the gay bars and other, gay hangout places around him. And in one instance, he was at a department store shopping for some clothes, and he saw a mannequin, like a male mannequin, and he got so sexually aroused that he waited until they closed, got the mannequin, took it back home to grandma's, and ended up, doing some shit to the mannequin.
Some like pearl shit.
Yeah. Except, this is real.
I know. Fucking crazy. A mannequin? Like,
yeah. So, I mean, okay. I can't. Okay. It's fucking weird, right?
it's fucking weird.
And he was also like, just a couple years younger than we are right now, like when he was doing the shit, if not the same age. However, I will say, like, when you were a kid, you walk in like to a store and you see a mannequin, like, and you're just like, hey, did you ever think that?
No.
You never thought that?
Not really.
Okay, well, I know.
Most of them don't have heads now, though.
I'm talking about like the chicks, dude.
Yeah, I know. Most of them don't have heads now.
Well, when I was shopping at like Kohl's with like my mom and stuff, I would always just be like,
I'm not gonna lie though, they put some racks on those motherfuckers.
I know. That's why I was like, so. I mean, I can't say like I get it, right? It shows.
You're not gonna grab one and take it home.
No, that was never a thought of mine, right?
Yeah,
I just was
exactly.
like, hey, mannequin looking bad. No, I'm just kidding.
It's fucking weird.
You never had like I guess you didn't have sisters, huh?
I had one, but
she was way older. So I know some of you listeners out there, when you're kids, if you had sisters, they brought out the Barbie dolls. You just be like, damn.
Damn, Barbie.
It's fucking weird. Like, don't get me wrong. Looking back, it's fucking weird. But that's when you were a kid, right?
But Barbie,
you were a kid. You didn't know.
You could take their clothes off and then just a new doll that people you were just playing with.
Okay,
it's
look,
crazy.
I'll say this. It's fucking, I hate this conversation, but kids now, they have such easy access for like porn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you can just look up what like a naked lady looks like.
True.
And just like find thousands of photos. I didn't have that. So I had like a Barbie doll.
Yeah. He had the AOL.
Or I had a mannequin.
Dial-up internet. Probably takes 300 years to load the image. Anyway.
I'm just saying, like, so
it's a different time. It's a different time.
I get what he did. I don't understand like how it went that far.
He escalated it too far.
So, way too far. Yeah. But like, you check out the mannequins when you go to a department store, like when you were a kid and your mind, is running like that. Now I look at a mannequin and I just think plastic.
Paper.
Or I'm like, damn, look, that's a nice flannel that guy's got on. Like, where is that?
I might buy those clothes.
Damn, yeah, look at those shoes, man. I gotta grab those. Yeah. So yeah, doing
the true reason why clothes are on mannequins.
Yeah, exactly. So no, staying and like waiting until the store is closed and then going out and stealing a mannequin and then taking it back.
Psycho shit.
Yeah, it's some psycho shit. Yeah, 100%. So I don't know. Anyway, his grandma ended up actually finding the mannequin in his closet, and she like yelled at him to like get it out of the house.
That would be weird.
She also started believing that he was gay at the when she found that, because
I mean, he was gay.
Yeah, but he didn't tell anybody that.
True. Yeah.
So yeah, she started believing. She kept urging him to go to church. Mm-hmm. And like pray with her and stuff, and she kept kind of being like, hey, why don't you meet like a nice girl at church or something, and he was not having it. So
he just had no interest in women.
No, and his grandma did pick up on that, but I think she didn't want to. It was a different time back then, right? So she didn't want to
believe that, right?
Yeah, so she kind of just didn't talk about it. So in 1985, Dahmer began visiting a bathhouse that was kind of strictly for homosexual encounters. He enjoyed the relaxing nature of it all, and he began, having sex with some of the guys there. But during those encounters, he grew angry at how some of his partners would move during sex. So,
was more domination aspect.
Yeah, he was like, he didn't like how they move, and that go back to the mannequin where he was able to get off on the mannequin just laying there.
Yeah.
So this actually caused him to start drugging the men in the bathhouse. And it took 12 separate events until the bathhouse became aware and took away his membership.
I think I remember that in the show.
Yeah, that was in the show. Dahmer actually later stated, quote, "I trained myself to view people as objects of pleasure and not people."
That's such a crazy statement.
Crazy fucking statement. So after the events at the bathhouse, Dahmer was arrested again and charged with lewd behavior. This was because he was caught pleasuring himself in front of two 12-year-old boys by a river. He tried to say that he was peeing in the river and there just happened to be two boys there, but he did end up later admitting to the crime. He also read in a newspaper that an 18-year-old boy had died and was having a funeral service nearby. He planned on going to the grave and digging up the body to take it home with him as a new mannequin.
What the hell?
However, so he did go to the grave. However,
okay,
the dirt was too much of a pain in the ass for him. So like halfway through, he stopped. So that's kind of where my story ends. But to conclude on Dahmer's life to this point, he was a massive freak. No doubt about it.
Big time.
But his home life did suck. And it's unfortunate that his parents didn't pick up on the warning signs, but in all of reality, I can see why they wouldn't have, right? His father was a chemist, so he figured Dahmer was just interested in following in his footsteps.
And they were just neglecting him too at the same time, you know?
Joyce had major mental health issues, and that definitely caused some issues for Dahmer, of course. But while his life did indeed suck like that, he decided to lose instead of win, in my opinion. In none of my research did I ever see him try to succeed in something. I'm a big believer in trying hard and yearning for success in whatever it is that you choose to do. It could help keep you grounded and focused on the important goals that you set for yourself, which is something that Dahmer didn't have. Therefore, I think that the lack of that helped him in doing all of this horrible, undescribable shit. But even though I do believe that, we did also learn from John Wayne Gacy that success doesn't make you a good person either.
No, because you could still be doing fucked up shit on the side.
Exactly. So I'll let you guys be the judge of that. But when you are given a tough childhood, do you sit there and wallow, or do you try to rise above what you were born into? And in my opinion, getting out of a situation like that is way more rewarding than just drinking yourself into oblivion.
And I hate to bring this up again, but literally in the movie we saw, troubled childhood with his mom turns him into this dude that in some people's eyes is a great family man.
Yeah.
And on the other side is a serial killer.
No, I get it. But again, I know like some of my teammates and shit, like they don't have dads. They don't have moms. They've had
hard childhoods. Yeah.
And guess what? They're making it on their own. They're getting out of that situation. And I just think like, sure, you know, you can talk about, you know, privilege or whatever you want to talk about, but honestly,
it's the easy way out.
To me, that is an easy excuse.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. We can't choose the cards that we're dealt, right? We just can't, you know, some of us have mental health issues
brought into this life.
Exactly. And some of us don't have family. Some of us have horrible, horrible shit that we just can't handle. Maybe we're born in a different part of the world, right? There's people out there that have it so much worse than us.
Right.
But
yeah, we don't have any choice in that.
No,
at all.
But that's my point though, is like,
what do you do with that?
Exactly.
That's the key.
Do you choose to just like lose, play a victim, you know, just let shit like just, well, I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to let this life just kick me in the ass. Or do you fucking get out of that?
You change it.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's something that I didn't see from Dahmer. Now, you do see that from John Wayne Gacy. That you just don't see him changing that fact of, like, you see what I mean? Like, if all of the killing,
just wait until Dahmer's in prison.
No, I get it. I'm just saying, like, really quick before you go, look at what, like, all of the killing and horrible shit that John Wayne Gacy did aside. He had a horrible childhood, right? He was getting beat the shit out of.
Yep.
He was called queer and stuff. He was, you know, he was fat. He was like, people were bullying him. Like he had all these issues. He was molested, like all this stuff. But guess what though?
He still did something.
He ended up succeeding in a lot of shit. And I mean, bro, it got to a point where his dad even came back to him and goes like, I'm sorry for treating you the way that I did. Like, he rose above all of that.
1,000%.
And again, I'm not trying to make John Gacy a fucking role model because he's not. That's
he's definitely
not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying that
you can't choose to do something better, right?
Yeah. You're given a hand. You need to learn how to use it, how to get through that, how to win, right? Like, that's what you need to learn how to do. And I'm just saying, like, to me, that's you have to deal with adversity.
Well,
Dahmer didn't do that.
Putting the killings aside, right? If you're given that hand, I feel like those are the people that work the hardest.
Well, yeah, they're the ones who are successful. I mean, look at some of the what Steve Jobs started in a fucking, was it a garage or some shit?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay, that's not like a problem, but like, you start somewhere, right?
Always start at the bottom.
You always have to start at the bottom, right? I mean, unless you're born like as an actor or whatever, they call them like Nepo babies and shit. Yep. But like, okay, there's only like a handful of people that give that. Also, when people are talking, I was just gonna say too, like I saw a bunch of people were giving Huey from The Boys a bunch of shit for being a Nepo baby because he's Dennis Quaid's son. Dennis Quaid's a huge actor.
I honestly did not know that.
Really?
I didn't know he was his son.
Yeah.
I know who Dennis Quaid is.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's Dennis Quaid's son. And so a lot of people were like, oh, you only got that job because you're Dennis Quaid's son. And he even came out and he was like, yeah, you're probably right. But it's also like,
he didn't choose it. He's there.
Yeah. He would kind of be stupid if he didn't take that like networking chance, right? Like if you would
have to, right?
Yeah,
you have to.
That's what I'm saying. Is like all these people who give him shit are just mad that they didn't get given that. And like, yeah, am I a little jealous that I'm not on fucking The Boys and dating Victoria Newman? Yeah. But
you weren't dealt that
I wasn't
card.
dealt that hand, right? Yeah. I was dealt a fucking bum ass arm, so my football dreams couldn't take off, and then now I'm here.
Crazy how things work out, you know?
But it's like, the point is, dude, I could have, with all the shit that I've been through, I could have stopped a long time ago, just dove into alcoholism and just done drugs and just done all that shit. And guess what? I didn't.
It's true. It's true.
So Dahmer did, though, and he kept doing this other shit. That's why I'm just saying, is like, I think him being a loser, to me, like, that's really losing. Is like when they're like, oh, you're a loser. I'm like,
he is a true loser.
He's a true loser because he's just deciding to lose when he's given these horrible things. And, you can say depression and stuff, and I get that. Believe me, I had it too, but still you gotta push through. And definitely don't take other people's lives and like eat people and shit, as a fucking.
Yeah, that's just way on top. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking bullshit. Okay.
Well,
let's get to the worse than my shit.
Yeah, this is pretty horrific.
I'm getting snuggy.
All right. Well,
run it.
In late 1987, Dahmer had killed his second victim. At this time, Dahmer was still living with his grandmother, but had rented a room at the Ambassador Hotel in downtown Milwaukee for the night. Dahmer headed out to the bars and ran into a guy by the name of Steven. He claimed he had no intention of killing the young man that night, but just wanted to explore his body. They started drinking, and Dahmer awoke to find Steven bleeding from the mouth, his chest black and blue and crushed. Dahmer's arms and fists were bruised as well, indicating some sort of altercation had taken place, leading to the death of the young man while blacked out. Crazy that happened while he blacked out.
That was in the show. And they gave their own... I know there wasn't... Oh, fuck, that could have been bad. I know they didn't... There's not like an actual reason for that, right? Like, did you find one? Yeah. So...
No, it's show, just like... It was an accident. Like,
in the show, they showed that he accidentally drugged himself a little bit.
So I'll get to that in a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a bit. You're jumping ahead a little bit.
That's why I was asking. Like, did they give a reason? But
with that, and that all went down in the hotel room. Dahmer that night went to purchase a large suitcase. He would then use that suitcase to transport the body from the hotel back to his grandmother's house. A few weeks later, he would then dismember the body, cutting the flesh from the bones, cutting them into small portions, putting them into bags, and then leading to smashing the bone remains up with a sledgehammer. He would dispose of the remains, but keep Steven's head and wrapped it in a blanket. A few more weeks later, he boiled the head in soil axe to keep it preserved. Although that did not work, he later had to smash it and dispose of the skull similar to the rest of the bone remains prior. After Stephen, the killing started to ramp up. Dahmer started seeking victims and would do so by going out to the local gay bars around the Milwaukee area. His way of doing this would be for him to lure them with the tactics of sexual activities and paying them to pose for photos. He would then drug them with sleeping pills and engage with sometimes potential sexual acts while unconscious or strangling them while unconscious. One after another, Dahmer was able to lure people back to his grandmother's house again and again, offering to pay for nude photos and or engaging in sexual activities before and after death. Strangling the men in the cellar of the house and dismembering the bodies and disposing the remains in the exact same way. Once again, cutting them up, taking the flesh off the bones, destroying the bone remains, and saving the skull. Fucking crazy. This dude was obsessed with heads.
Well, dude, he was obsessed with the male physique. It was what his whole thing was. It's like he just
wild though. It's just
well, you can kind of see the gradual, I guess, like incline to this, right? Like you can see from when he was a kid, he was fascinated by roadkill, and that's why they say when you're into like animals and shit,
and you
it's
kill
a warning
animals
sign.
Early on, that is a huge warning sign
It's
that
because
you're
of this.
probably going to kill other things.
Yeah,
living
eventually
things.
that will evolve, right? Human
Because
beings,
you will
we
stop
evolve.
caring. You stop caring about what you're killing.
Exactly. It's more about the biology, right? It's just a part to you. Like he said, it's just an object, right? And he got
exactly
arousal out of just these objects who were unfortunately young men.
Yeah. It's just baffling. Attempting to once again preserve the skull and boiling, only to find it would be too brittle to keep for arousal. Around September 1988, his grandmother had asked Dahmer to move out, claiming his alcohol was an issue. She did not have a liking of young men coming over to her house all the time, and lastly, due to the smells coming from various parts of her house. Dahmer found a new apartment, but a couple days later, he was arrested for drugging and performing sexual acts with a young 13-year-old boy who was lured to the place by the nude photo ploy. At this point, Dahmer went through psychological evaluations prior to his court hearing, as it was found that he harbored feelings of alienation. But a second evaluation claimed him to be a very impulsive person. At the beginning of the year of 1989, he pled guilty to the acts of sexual assault he had committed and moved back to his grandmother's home. A few months later, after his conviction and a few months prior to his sentencing, he murdered another person, and this one was very wild.
Well, really quick, I just want to point out, how the fuck has this guy been like arrested on? We've already said like 6 times.
And he's doing this stuff on probation
he's just fine.
Before his sentencing. It's just crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's like
there's just like no watch on him.
No, I know. It's like, what the fuck are you
But
doing?
once again, here we are. It's a different time, man. It was back in the late 80s.
I know, dude.
Right?
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Like,
that's why I
hard
keep
to keep
bringing
watch.
it up.
And I was talking to my mom about this actually. I was like, so you were alive during the serial killer era? I was like, did you realize? She goes, it was really hard to obtain news back then.
Yeah.
Not everything was on your phone and accessible, right?
I mean, that's what my dad told me. The only reason why he knew about John Wayne Gacy and Dahmer was because he grew up in Wisconsin.
So
and they
obviously
both happened up there, right?
Right. Like towards the area.
Dahmer was like right down the fucking street.
Yeah. He was in Milwaukee and Gacy was
Ohio.
Illinois, I thought.
Was it?
I think it was Illinois.
Chicago? Yeah. Chicago, Illinois. Yeah.
But hey, it's just, different time. The access to things now is so easy.
That's what I'm saying is like, I don't think this could happen now. I mean, sure,
there's still some serial killers out there.
Yeah, there's the Gilgo Beach killer or whatever in Long Island in New York. I'd like to actually do an episode about him. We should. It's very recent, but he killed like 13 women.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I did read that there's not really that many serial killers anymore. There's maybe 8 to 12 active at one time.
Well, but that's
over the course of
that's
all
what I'm
these
saying.
years.
Is I think with the rise of guns and all that,
guns, access to phones, you can record people easily.
Serial killers, in my opinion, have been traded off with like mass shooters.
Amber alerts go on people's phones.
Yeah, like you can't escape. And if there is a serial killer, he's getting caught.
Right.
Like there's just no way.
Before most of them are getting caught before they can continue their acts of violence.
Every street corner, there's a camera. You'd have to be in like a rural ass fucking town, right?
And even then, that's a small town, so you can pretty much probably boil it down to a select handful of people.
Yeah, and if you're in a small town, they probably all got guns and they'll just blow your little ass away.
Very true. Very true.
If we had a fucking serial killer in Elizabeth, well, actually, fuck, man.
There was some crazy shit that happened in that town.
There was a. It's a little too close to home, but
yeah, maybe we should skip.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
He meets another guy named Anthony Sears at yet another local gay bar. He claimed that this time he was not looking to commit a crime that night, but right as the night was about to end and the bars were closing, Sears just started talking to Dahmer. Dahmer got Sears to come back to his grandmother's house, where they were involved in oral sex activities. Later that night, Sears was drugged and strangled to death. Dahmer moved the body to the bathtub. Sorry. This is where he would, again, dismember the body as he had done before. Sears was different, though, because this was the first victim in which Dahmer kept body parts. He found Sears very attractive, so he preserved his head and his genitalia.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Which he then kept in a box.
Wait, like his dick or his balls or both?
I think both.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And he kept it in a box. Later in 1989.
It's my dick in a box.
Jesus Christ. Later in 1989, Dahmer was sentenced to 5 years of probation and 1 year in the House of Correction. That allowed for work given that he could keep and maintain his job. He did have to register as a sex offender, though. 1990, he moved from his grandmother's house to a place at 924 North 25th Street, apartment 213. That's a famous apartment.
Yep.
Which happened to be closer for him to get to work, but in a more high crime area. His first victim in this apartment was the start of something new. Dahmer had lured a young man, a prostitute by the name of Raymond Smith, back to his apartment. He would promise him $50 for sex. He did his same usual bullshit, drugged him with sleeping pills, and then strangled him. But this time, after killing Smith, Dahmer purchased a Polaroid camera where he would take pictures in suggestive positions. Then he would continue his normal routine of dismembering the body, ridding the flesh and the bones in acid, but again keeping the skull, in which this time he would later spray paint.
What?
Yeah, he spray painted this one. For some reason.
Just the whole thing?
Yeah. Ink in black.
Also, really quick, I just want to apologize for that dick in a box joke. I just thought it was kind of funny at the time, but then it's like, it's not funny. It's not funny at all.
Where was I?
Sorry, my bad.
No,
I just thought I should
say that. A week later, Dahmer tried again, but he had accidentally mixed up the drinks and taken his own sleeping pills by mistake. He later awoke to having been robbed by the man he attempted to drug and potentially kill. However, Dahmer never reported this to the police, but did mention this to his probation officer and said that he had been robbed, but that was it. As the year progressed and more innocent lives were taken by Dahmer, he kept luring, drugging, killing the young men in his apartment, even having to kill someone by a knife instead of strangling them due to not having enough sleeping pills to fully knock the man out. Everything ended up the same way as it did prior, dealing with the flesh, the bones, and now keeping parts of the body, including biceps, thighs, hearts, and livers that he would now later consume. Disgusting.
So he started eating them. Fuck, man.
In 1991, the killings did not stop. Dahmer actually had the idea of trying to zombify his victims. A few more people were again lured to his apartment with, again, the same reasoning. Paying for sex and nude photography. Dude, literally, just, hey, I can take some pictures. I've got money and beer. And people will just go. Because, they had to been struggling, people looking for a quick cash grab.
I mean, dude, if you would have asked me like 5 years ago, if just like,
you want to come hang out?
Some girl just like, hey, you want to come over and I got beer and I kind of want to take a picture. I'd be like, yeah, sure. Why not?
I mean,
now I'd be like,
we definitely went to a girl's house for a beer. You know, that has happened. So
probably need a little bit more info than that. That doesn't sound so good.
Well, she invited us to her house for a beer. We went. She was just a random girl we met that night.
Basically, Jake and I had to escape this girl's house because it was some crazy shit. And then we were in downtown Denver just fucking running away.
And then ran into a homicide poster.
Yeah, we literally were just in the middle of an area. We had no idea. And all of a sudden we see a poster on like this fucking like telephone pole. And it was like a homicide wanted poster for a guy that had like 3 homicides, some shit. We were like, what the fuck? Where are we? So yeah, there's definitely some times when, going over to somebody's house for a beer in the late hours of the night is a really bad idea. I guess that hasn't changed.
Although now,
really quick, sorry, Mom, I'm not telling you that story. Just not.
Although now, Dahmer started drilling holes into people's heads and injecting hydrochloric acid to render them almost in a zombie-like state, basically attempting to take away their will and stating that he did not want to just be left with their skull only again.
I remember that in the show.
One night, Dahmer met a guy by the name of Tony Hughes out at the nightclub. Tony was an aspiring model, and Dahmer had really taken a liking to this guy. He lured him with the offer of posing in photos for money. He said that he liked him and wanted to, quote unquote, keep him in a way that was not like the others. He did not want to kill him, so he tried drilling a hole in his head to see if he could make him into a zombie-like state once again, but cutting back on the dosage of acid he would inject into his brain. Although even cutting back still proved fatal, and Dahmer was once again left with another deceased body in his apartment. 2 days later, Dahmer encountered a young 14-year-old boy by the name of Konorak. And unknown by Dahmer at the time, Konorak was a younger brother of a man he had molested back in 1988. Dahmer asked if he could take pictures of him. However, he was hesitant at first, but then agreed to go take a few photos. Dahmer had convinced Konorak to come into his apartment where he would then drug him and perform oral sex with the drugged teen. He would then drill a small hole through the crown of the young teen's head where he would inject the head with acid once again. After he finished his crazy procedure, Konorak fell asleep. Dahmer would then later leave the house to go to a bar and then purchase more beer before returning home. Later that early morning, Dahmer returned home but found Konorak way outside. He sat there naked along with 3 young women beside him. Dahmer tried to say to the women that the teen was with him and was a friend, referring to him under an alias. The women did not budge, and they said they had called 911 about the incident. A little bit later, 2 officers pulled up to the scene. All 3 women tried to explain the situation to the officers and kept saying that the teen was hurt and he was intoxicated, but the officers told her to shut up and butt out. Dahmer had claimed that they were lovers, and back in the day, especially in Milwaukee at the time, the cops in the area had to tread carefully around the gay community. So the officers did not want to disturb the peace of that community, so they decided to neglect the African American community instead and chose not to listen to the 3 women and just push them aside. They led Dahmer and the young teen back into the apartment. This is where Dahmer would show them the Polaroid pictures of Konorak and persuade them that they were in fact lovers. They never really looked around the apartment and had said they did not really smell anything too unusual either. They told Dahmer to take good care of the guy and to have a good night. After they left, Dahmer injected more hydrochloric acid into the hole of the skull, this time ending fatally. Isn't that crazy?
That was in the show.
They just neglect these people who are trying to help a young boy.
See, that
and
was
the cops just did not budge.
That was the time, man.
I know.
That was that time, unfortunately.
So I'm gonna go a little off track here. I found this interesting in one of the documentaries I watched and read about his neighbor, and a little bit of a story from the neighbor's perspective.
So is it the one lady in the show, or was she fictitious?
Guy, I think there was a lady, but this guy was a man.
See that, because that's what I don't think she was fictitious, and it was supposed to be just like kind of the.
I think it was dramatized for sure.
Yeah.
So one day, one of the apartment neighbors by the name of Vernell Bass, one who actually liked Jeffrey Dahmer, knocked on his door. Dahmer opened the door. We also have to keep in mind that Vernell had recent chats with Dahmer before. He had asked him to come play cards and tried to introduce Dahmer to a woman that lived on the first floor before asking for a favor. Vernell asked him if he could borrow some money or get a loan so that he could get his sister a wedding gift. Dahmer, without hesitation, lent him $60 and told him not to even worry about it and to get his sister something nice. Vernell had a statement that I thought was very interesting and I want to share with you guys. He said, quote, "How many people know what their neighbor does once they go inside and close their door? You can only go by what you see and what you hear out of their mouth," end quote. Vernell had realized Dahmer was a loner, that he liked to be isolated, but every encounter with him seemed to be casual and thought nothing of it. After Dahmer's arrest, police were taking things out of his apartment. Bass asked one of the officers on duty, "Is Jeff okay?" And the officer responded, "Yeah, that fucker's okay." So,
sorry, are you finishing a paragraph?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've got a sentence left.
All right, go ahead.
To witness them carrying out body parts in boxes as evidence against Dahmer, Bass had to just be in full shock to realize that your neighbor was now known as Jeffrey Dahmer, the serial killer.
So that is such a creepy thing to say. Like that quote is so creepy because it's like, it's true. How many times do we like think about our neighbors and like what they're doing and shit?
It's true.
You have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember, I actually thought this one time too. There was, we had a neighbor out by my parents' house one night back in 2020, and he kind of had a mental breakdown. He started texting my dad a bunch of weird shit and was like, "Oh, you let the kids out, like they're in my lawn or something." And my dad was like, "What the fuck?" And I remember I had a 4 a.m. shift the next day. So I woke up and I went outside, and it's dark out at like 3:30 in the morning, and this guy's out there just flashing a flashlight like on his roof and shit. And I was like, "What the fuck?" Then I come home, and all of a sudden, like, he's like my dad has my other neighbors over, and they're talking about this story, and then the cops came and all this. It was a whole thing, dude. This guy really lost his mind. Yeah, it was a whole thing. So it's true. It's like that guy was going through some shit while I was just probably chilling playing Call of Duty.
Yeah. You just never know.
Everybody has their own life, right? So it's like you just have no idea. But that's a creepy ass thought for sure.
In July of 1991, Dahmer approached a few men with the intent of paying around $100 to accompany him to the apartment and pose for new photos. One of the men, Tracy Edwards, agreed to come and pose and drink a few drinks. Edwards entered the apartment. He noticed a strong, disgusting odor coming from the apartment, along with a few boxes of hydrochloric acid on the floor, in which Dahmer said were used for cleaning bricks. They both sat down, and Dahmer went to handcuff Edwards. He was very taken back by the action and quickly avoided the second handcuff. Edwards knew he was in a terrible situation. When walking back to the bedroom with Dahmer, he noticed a big blue container that the strong odor was coming from, and also that The Exorcist 3 was playing on the television in the room. That led him to believe that he needed to play along to an attempt and escape. Dahmer came into the room with a knife, but Edwards said that he would pose and do whatever he wanted if he would take the handcuffs off. Dahmer did not think twice before going into a trance and chanting gibberish while watching the movie. He was obsessed with that movie.
I know. I was in the show.
Dahmer would then turn back to Edwards and lay his head on his chest to listen to his heartbeat. He then said he was going to eat his heart. Edwards knew he really was only going to get potentially one chance of escaping. So he waited for the perfect moment, a moment in which Dahmer would have a lapse of concentration. He convinced Dahmer to go back to the living room for a moment, and he kept saying that they were friends and that he would not run away and he wanted to be there. In the living room, that's where he had the lack of concentration, and Edwards popped up, punched Dahmer in the face, and bolted for the door. Edwards stated that God must have been on his side that day because he said there were quite a few locks on the door, and he happened to unlock the right one to make his escape. He quickly got out of the apartment building and flagged down 2 Milwaukee police officers. They noticed handcuffs on him, and he screamed that some freak put them on him, and he wants them taken off. The officers said they would try, but their keys were not a match for the handcuffs upon his wrists. They decided to go back to Dahmer's apartment to have the handcuffs removed. When they arrived at the apartment, Dahmer let all 3 in to the place, and he did in fact say he put the handcuffs on the man. Dahmer had mentioned that the key was in his bedroom, so the officer went to retrieve it. Dahmer made an attempt to pass him and retrieve it himself before being told to back off by the other officer and let the one get the key. He noticed the drawer was open, and inside the drawer he found Polaroid pictures of all the people Dahmer had been involved with. Seeing the pictures of living and deceased humans in the photos, the officers called for backup as something was unfolding upon their own eyes. Once Dahmer saw that the officer had seen the photos, he attempted to resist arrest but was unsuccessful. After arresting Dahmer, the search team came in to find a few skulls in the fridge, skeletons in the bedroom, and bags of organs and flesh in the fridge as well. One thing that is really crazy to me was after the arrest happened, he was questioned by detectives and actually confessed to everything he had done, and he even helped identify some of the victims that he had killed. Wild. Yeah, they said that he was pointing out a lot of things so that, because some of the bodies, they had no idea. They were just like holding up missing people in front of him, and he was like, yep, I took them in and stuff like that. It was just wild.
It's, the guy definitely knew he had an issue. I know that.
Oh, he definitely knew.
Yeah, he knew he had problems, but...
His trial began January 30th, 1992 in the city of Milwaukee. It covered 15 counts of first-degree murder. Defense attorneys argued that Dahmer was insane and due to his impulsive decision-making and his necrophilia drive and curiosity. The trial lasted 2 weeks and ended on February 15th, but later to make a final decision on February 17th. Dahmer was sentenced to life in prison for the first 2 counts of murder and then 70 years for the remaining. He seemed to be fine with the death penalty, but the state of Wisconsin abolished capital punishment in the year of 1858, so the death penalty was not an option at the time.
Yeah, didn't he ask for the electric chair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dahmer was sent to Columbia Correctional Institution, and for the first year of his confinement there, he was isolated. They kept him in solitary confinement out of fear that someone was going to harm him in the open public areas. 1 year later, he requested to be let out of isolation and moved to a less secure area. He was then given a job cleaning toilets for about 2 hours a day. Later, in the year of 91, he requested a Bible and began practicing Christianity. He now became a devoted Christian, and in 1994, he got baptized. A few months later, an inmate attempted to kill Dahmer with a razor embedded in a toothbrush, but only left a few cuts on him, nothing major. November 28th, 1994, Dahmer and 2 other inmates left their cell to go work their shift. They were left unsupervised at the time for around 20 minutes, and at 8:10 a.m., Dahmer was found lying on the bathroom floor suffering from a severe head wound, indicating that he had been bludgeoned to the head. He was still alive at the moment, but later, when taken to the hospital, he would die an hour later. One interesting thing here that actually blew me away was the inmate who killed Dahmer actually killed the other member of their trio as well, and later said to the prison guard taking him back to his cell, "God told me to do it."
Yeah. Do you buy that Dahmer actually became like a Christian?
I think he practiced it.
So you think he actually like genuinely tried? That wasn't for like shits and giggles? Because he had denied going to church and stuff like his entire life up until that moment.
I think he just had some sort of realization in prison and just wanted to change his life. I don't know. I think he tried to become a devoted Christian, but I don't know. Does he think just because he did that, he's now forgiven? I don't think so. But
yeah,
doesn't mean you can't read a Bible.
I mean, it's true. Yeah,
and get baptized.
I wanted to know your thoughts on if you thought it was bullshit or not.
I don't think it was bullshit, but I also don't agree with the fact of if he ever thought that he was a true Christian. I would say no.
That's fair.
People don't do that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I personally think it's probably some bullshit.
But I know he did feel remorse. He knew he was fucked up.
He knew he was wrong for sure.
He said he couldn't love. And he said if someone could love, they wouldn't do the things he did.
Yeah. No, he realized like what he did, but I still just think like, bro, that man was evil. Like he was evil, right? And whether that's how he was raised, again, I don't personally like going back to what I said. I just think like he chose to lose, and I just think like if he probably, I mean, because it said his in my research it was saying like he went away from all the sexual fantasies, right? Like I read that it wasn't until the guy slid the note in the library that all of that started coming back. So, I mean, he did kind of try to start going, but it's like these sexual fantasies were just too much for him. And he just...
Well, he's impulsive. He had a drive that he couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And it's just something that our brains can't comprehend because they don't work like that.
Exactly. And again, I mean, look, I know like I'm obviously on the outside with a way better childhood than Jeff Dahmer did, but so, I guess I can't fully say that, but I also know people who have had almost worse childhoods than him, and they throw themselves into a passion or something else. And I guess, unfortunately, his passion was something horrible. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I just don't, it's going to fuck him up. I mean, he's going to need help and, trying to work that shit out, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
You can't undo your previous actions.
It's true.
He took a lot of innocent young men's lives.
Yep.
And I just feel there's just no coming back from that, regardless of how much you try.
There isn't. And I'm sorry. And honest to God, if any of our viewers are going to defend Jeffrey Dahmer for any of this shit, just don't watch us. I'm sorry, but like, I don't want you to watch us because this guy does not, there's no excuse.
People do wrong things, but when people do wrong things, it's usually not in the sense of killing people. You might lie to someone. You might.
No, I fully
punch someone because it pissed you off. But
with, like, I'm all for forgiveness. That's why I honestly, come for my head if you want to, but I fucking hated cancel culture because it's like you're bringing up shit from somebody from 10 years ago. And I mean, I know damn well I wasn't the same person that I am now 10 years ago. Like, I'm just not. I've grown, I've learned, I've done all that kind of stuff. And so I think
Now, if you found out 10 years ago they had killed a bunch of people, different story.
That's a different story,
right?
but I think that's with like, there's a code of morals there. If you maybe called somebody a name or something, it's just not the same.
No,
right?
it's not.
Because you can come back from that. You can apologize for that. You can feel forgiveness for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you kill somebody, there is no coming back from that because you can't put a life back into somebody. You just can't do that.
Right.
So it's
you can't
like
give back what people have lost.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying is like, I'm all for second chances. Lord knows I've fucking given my fair share of second chances and I've been given my fair share of second chances. But I think that for this, if you kill somebody like on purpose, I can understand, there's certain things that like, it could happen by a complete accident. You have no idea. But if it's like on purpose and you're eating them or you're preying on children or something like that, there's no excuse. I'm sorry. Like, fuck you if you're that person.
That's why people wanted to kill him in prison.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, dude. Yeah. And like I said, if any of you guys out there are going to try to comment or some shit about how, oh, Jeff Dahmer had this and that. No, I don't want to hear it. I'm sorry. I don't. Like, the shit that he did outweighs any kind of excuse that anybody could give me. I'm sorry. It does.
It's true.
So
tough cookies. Don't watch us.
Yeah.
Oh, what a episode, man. This guy is just fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Horrible human being that unfortunately influenced a lot of horror that I do enjoy.
It's true. He definitely had an imprint on it.
It's a weird feeling to feel that, but
it's kind of crazy because all these serial killers have had a stamp in pop culture that's influenced a lot of things today that most people actually enjoy. It's kind of crazy.
It's weird, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But life works weird. That's a quote I can say. Life works weird.
Humans are an interesting species.
We are very interesting, man. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can talk about the guys who fucking were pissed at us because we didn't believe in Bigfoot.
True.
That turned out to be a very controversial episode because there's a lot of people out there that truly, truly believed in Bigfoot. And, I thought like we gave the facts of everything. And all these people were like, oh, we've seen it. We've seen Bigfoot. And it's like, that's cool. I'm happy that you did, but we haven't.
Yeah.
So we had to make our own
experience it from our own eyes.
Exactly. So we understand that everybody has strong opinions. We definitely do. I certainly have some, and I know you do too and stuff, but I think that we all do abide by a certain set of morals, right? Like, we all try to be nice. We all try to be kind. And if you don't, then, work on that because it's your life and everybody else's life is going to be a hell of a lot better if you just try to be kind to everybody. And right. Yeah, I don't know this fucking guy, dude. There's no excuse for what he did. That's what yeah. So that's what I think. He was a fucking loser and he's a piece of shit and I'm glad he's fucking gone. So there you go.
He is no longer walking the earth. Well,
cool. There you go.
Episode's been heavy, guys. Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah, we had some pretty strong opinions on the whole thing, and I would like to know your guys' opinions for sure. I know Jake would too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we love starting the conversation.
Don't agree with anything that we said, say it. You don't have to be a dick about it, but you can say it.
It's true.
And I think that's a good thing. Is like, well, we like to hear other takes on stuff. So if you
right.
you know about his childhood and you think, oh, it was this or it was that. Yeah, let us know. I want to know what you guys think really led this man to do what he did. I will not tolerate anybody defending him and what he did. Fuck that. And fuck you if you do.
True. Well, on that note,
sorry, I do love you guys though. All of you guys out there, I love you. Honestly, unless you defend Dahmer, then I fucking hate you. But yeah, I do love what this journey has been for us, and we're getting better. We're getting hopefully we're bringing some interesting ideas and topics and theories and shit to you guys. And yeah, it seems like you guys are enjoying what we're bringing to the table, which is really awesome because shit, we like talking about it. So
that we do. We do.
This is our last serial killer episode for the year or for the season. So no more heavy shit. We'll obviously dip our toes into heavy topics every once in a while, but I think next we have a lot of myths and we got a big October planned for you guys, which will be fun. A lot of Halloween themed shit. We have a couple more on location episodes. So that'll be fun. And then we'll get cracking on season 2 and So
yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Maybe we'll get like Ed Gein or some shit in like the next one.
True.
Like that fucker. He like had like lamps made of human skin and shit.
That's fucking crazy.
He was also like a Wisconsin dude or like a Midwest dude. So
it's always the fucking Midwest,
man. You got something to tell me?
No. I wasn't born in the Midwest.
No, but your family was? Well, I guess my family was too. I can't really say that. Okay, well, anyway, guys.
All right, guys.
That's a heavy episode from us, Supernaturals.
Thanks again.
Thank you for listening. We really appreciate the support and stuff, and we hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't be afraid to... Oh, God, I fucking hate this bullshit, but don't be afraid to like and subscribe. Also,
hi, guys.
Hey, guys. No, our Patreon should be in the link of all the descriptions or whatever. And if you guys want to check out some behind the scenes content and things like that, there's a bunch up there now. So
yeah, we usually roll the camera most of the time prior to filming.
Yeah.
So.
Also follow our TikTok. We'll do reels and movie reviews and things like that if you guys haven't seen them on the Instagram or the YouTube shorts. So
very true.
Stay tuned. We got some fun shit coming up. And this has been an episode of Jesus Christ. This has been an episode of the Supernaturals. We'll see you guys later.
We'll see you around the graveyard.
Thanks for listening to this chilling episode of the Supernaturals. For your protection, make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And stay tuned for the next episode.